It is bones. And in this one, let's take a quick look at some custom work that I've done. Now, this is not necessarily a figure repaint, which is what I usually do. This is more of some custom work that I did to make the Grim Knight his own Cykill. Now, I did take the death metal bat Cykill and strip it down, and this is what was underneath. Now, as usual, I didn't necessarily have a plan as such, as I pretty much just went with whatever came out. But once I got into doing it, I couldn't stop, and I ended up with this, which actually came out pretty nice. And I do have a little bit more work that I would like to do on it, as adding some more armory like guns and stuff, if I could just figure out where to mount them onto. But let's take a look at it. Now first, let's take a look at just the Cykill. Now, I did remove all of the bat bone parts that were originally on it, the bat skull, the rib cage that was over it, all that stuff I removed. Was kind of hard. I did have to use the heat gun a lot to soften the plastic. That made it easier to cut. And pretty much the only thing that was left was this ridge that runs right down the top of the tank in the middle. And I couldn't really get rid of it. I could have tried a little bit harder. It was just a short little, like ridge that ran down the middle of it. But what I decided to do instead was that I found like a little, like a bolero, kind of like a bullet load that I don't know where it's from, but it's just like a bunch of bullets ready to like load into a gun, like a submachine gun or whatever. And what I decided to do was glue it to that little ridge that was left that I didn't get off from the spine that was there from the bat Cykill. And I glued it there, painted the bullets a little bit more goldish brass color so they would like stick out. The bullets fit actually pretty well with the whole design. The next thing I did is I did find some other parts that I had taken from like other vehicles that I had, and I just cut them off. Like this front kind of like air fuselage, and then this one lamp in the front to give them like a headlight. I painted these up and then glued them on so it would match the rest of the scheme of the bike. Pretty cool. Now, I don't necessarily do vehicle, custom stuff, but I just really felt like I wanted to do this, especially how the Grim Knight is basically like one of my favorite figures that has ever been released by McFarlane. I do own 6 of them, so this was just something I really wanted to do. Added a little bit of silver paint throughout where I thought it was needed, like on some of the pipes, and just depends where I wanted to add it. But also like on the little, the clutch grips on the handlebars, just wherever I could. Now, I do also have some chrome paint that I actually put in different spots to give it different pops throughout the piece. And then afterwards, I did want to add a little bit of brass gold to like fit in with the bullets and give it all a pretty cool little flow throughout the bike, where you would see a little bit of that gold copper throughout the whole thing. So pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with it. On its own, it did have a little storage spot where you could put some extra guns. Like I have these 2 little machine guns there. Put on there. Of course, after you get to look at all the little paint I did on the bike, I did have to paint some of the seat like in a flat black because it had a lot of scuffs and stuff left from where I took off the back part of the bat Cykill bone parts, just to get it all to look pretty clean. And actually it came out pretty nice. Like I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said before, I will be adding a little bit more details that I haven't gotten to, but I will eventually. It's a work in progress. I even have some lights like that and a little effect, like a motorcycle effect, that I wanted to add on here, but I just didn't want to do it now. But eventually I might do it so that the headlight will light up. But as I said before, as I'm not really a big vehicle customizer, this has come out pretty sweet. Now let's talk about the Grim Knight figure. Now, another thing I did want to do is I wanted to try the Three Jokers Batman head on him because that Grim Knight head, I do love it. It has its own unique look. It's like really like it just looks like slender and like has a weird shape to it. But this Three Jokers Batman head, I just wanted to see how it would look on him because he looks, like so grim and gritty. So I did have to modify that head so they would actually fit because those heads are not made to actually fit on regular figures. I'll do another video on that later on, but he does look pretty nice with his Three Jokers head on there. Now another thing I wanted to do is I wanted him, since he's gonna be on his bike, I actually wanted him to have like one of those baklava like mouth coverings that they show him like on the statue that they did of the Grim Knight. He actually has a head where he has that, face covering, and that's a lot of like tactical, it really fits with the character. So what I ended up doing was I actually sculpted out with epoxy sculpt like a shape of it and then let it harden a little bit so that it would be pliable, and then I started sculpting it in. Now I was planning on using the commando spawn and seeing if I could take that one off and put it on here, but I kind of wanted to make it different, that way it would be easier to like take off and on, and I had an idea for that, so I decided to go ahead and sculpt it out myself. Now I did paint it like a flat black with a little bit of glossy highlights just to give it some different textures, but all in all it came out pretty well. Now what you do is you pop off the head, and then the face covering actually sits perfectly. When it was soft, I actually would like push it down onto this, because he actually has like fabric around his neck, which is what he supposedly like pulls up. But I actually molded it to where it sits perfectly like right on top of that, flush, while it was soft. And now that it's hardened up, it just sits right on there. And then what you do is, I'm going to actually use the original Grim Knight head, but you can use the Three Jokers head. But I just like using this one because I like the ears a little bit better. But you actually slide that head on there. Now if you do it with the peg, you could pop the peg in, and that actually gives you a lot more range of motion. You can make them look up or to the sides, and this like floating piece actually moves around with the head. But just for right now, just to show you guys, I'm just going to let it sit on there. But that's how it looks once you put the piece in between the neck and the head. And as I said before, you can manipulate it to turn them and give them different views, but I really like the way that came out. Fits perfectly with him and gives him like that cool, mercenary feel. Now this one actually does have his gun arsenal that snaps onto his back. I just thought it looked a lot cooler than if he didn't have it. I just thought it looked more finished with the gun pack on his back. And as I said before, he does have a little place where you could put his other guns. And eventually I will be adding, like I found this gun just randomly. I think it's from an old Spawn figure that I actually customized. But this might fit either well with him, or like if I could find some way to, mount these up, it might like fit right in, which would be pretty cool. But this is a work in progress. I just wanted to let you guys check it out because it's basically like 90% done. I mean, besides the other little touches that I want to add. But as you can see, if you have visions that you want to do to customize the figures, there's no limit to your imagination, and you could do the work and get it in there. But you guys keep customizing out there. I will see you on the next one.